Olá pessoal, todos bem? Espero que vocês estejam bem. Hoje é uma tarde de segunda-feira, estou aqui na Copenhague, em São Paulo, na chácara Clarim, com um grande amigo meu, que me deu a honra dessa entrevista. Na verdade vai ser uma conversa informal, e a conversa toda vai ser em inglês. Então, desculpem, a gente não vai traduzir, a ideia é que vocês treinem inglês. A ideia é que a gente possa aproveitar a presença do Guilleume aqui no Brasil. Ele já está voltando para a Suíça e ele é um instrutor formado no programa Mindfulness Stress Reduction, o programa MBRS, que é um dos primeiros programas de mindfulness e redução de estresse que foram lançados. Então ele é um professor, está voltando para a Suíça e muito provavelmente pode dar aula em toda a Europa. E eu queria muito fazer um small talk, uma conversa com ele. Não é bem uma entrevista, vai ser uma conversa, eu vou estar participando também. Obrigado então pela audiência, o programa vai estar gravado aqui. So Guillaume, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Pleasure for me too.
Yes, we are recording live on Facebook to my audience. And as I say in Português, Guillaume is a current mindfulness stress reduction instructor. Now he's coming back to Switzerland. He's originally from Sion, which is a kind of a valley near Lausanne, right? Near Lausanne.
Yeah.
If you're planning to go to Switzerland someday, just let me know. No, okay. So, Guillaume, you have such a nice story in your life, and I think that's very important for people to know your background. Mm-hmm. That you came from a kind of leadership field, kind of very different kind of job. I don't know anyone who used to work in the United Nations.
Yeah.
And just tell me a little bit of your story and how do you get this transition between your regular work in the United Nations from a mindfulness instructor?
Yeah. So basically I've worked for the United Nations for 10 years overall, and I started my career in the Middle East, in places such as Yemen and Syria and Palestine, Israel as well. And after 5-6 years there, I moved to New York, to the headquarters of the United Nations, and I got a job there. And I was like, it's going to be a good opportunity for me to rest and to get a normal life in New York. But it was a bit different than I expected, because also a lot of stress, a lot of politics in the UN, and I realized that a lot of these experiences I had been through at the work level in the Middle East, doing humanitarian work, and a personal level as well, with some, grief and some medical issues as well.
And how long have you been living in New York?
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So during this time I realized I had a lot of things to process, and I had a lot of maybe stress, anxiety, and a lot of things that I hadn't noticed before, but something had to be done about it.
Yes.
So thanks to a very good friend who brought me to a meditation session, introduction.
In New York?
In New York,
right.
Yeah, I think it was on a Sunday. Basically I realized that through meditation I could be in the present moment, meaning I didn't need to be analyzing what was in my mind and what I had done in the past in a wrong way or in the right way and so on, or to be in the future projecting myself about my career, about what I need to achieve, that I could just come back for a few seconds in the moment and in my body. And it was the first time I realized that since probably I was a kid. When you're a kid, you can be yourself and enjoy life.
Yeah.
But I hadn't been doing this for years, for a lot of years.
And in your first contact with any kind of meditation was in a regular MBSR program or in a secular mindfulness program?
So no, the first one was actually in a Tibetan tradition, actually in New York.
Oh, nice. Do you remember the name of tradition?
It was Kadampa. Actually.
Kadampa, yeah.
Which I think they have centers in various places, but I didn't stay in this tradition. I think it was a good discovery, but I soon moved to more secular or more insight meditation. There is a good center in New York called the Insight Meditation Center.
Yes.
And it's there that I went to some introduction to mindfulness, some introduction to meditation over some weeks. And then soon, one teacher I really liked was giving the MBSR 8-week program. So I did it with him, and this was a big shift. Like the first meditation was big, but this one was big too, because I learned to have a regular practice. I learned what stress was about, and how to try and see stress and deal with stress a bit more intelligently.
And it was your first time on practice?
So the MBSR was the first time. I mean, I was practicing here and there after this first meditation.
No, I mean before this like Kadampa meeting.
Yeah, this was the first one. My first meditation practice, like for a bit more than 4 years ago, I think.
Okay.
So that was the first contact. And because now I realize that my mind can get obsessive a bit. So I got really into meditation and I wanted to know more. So I did a lot of courses and I went on silent retreats.
Just catch you up, yeah?
Yeah. And I even asked my teacher at the time, is it okay to be obsessed with meditation? And he told me, it's better to be obsessed with meditation than with alcohol.
Yeah, drugs, whatever, yeah. Wow, it's so nice. I didn't know that, yeah. And by the time did you know Turgar International, our scope?
No, not yet. It's when, because I was into meditation, I was listening to the podcast of Dan Harris.
Dan Harris, it's a TV host.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He has this great podcast in English where he interviews a lot of great people.
It's a very good book. Have you heard?
Yeah, 10% Happier. Yeah. And the podcast is the same name. And he interviewed a lot of good people, and he interviewed Mingyur Rinpoche.
Oh, really? Point. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a good interview. And Mingyur Rinpoche was talking about his panic attacks when he was a young kid.
Yes.
And I used to have panic attacks in the subway in New York.
Really?
Yeah, because I was stressed and it's warm, there are a lot of people.
It's overcrowded.
And so I realized I was in the subway listening to the podcast and Mingyur Rinpoche saying, oh, I used to have panic attacks. So I was like, wow. I'm not the only one having this.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And it's then that when I finished my career with the UN, I decided to travel a bit. And I realized Mingyur Rinpoche was giving a course in Kathmandu, in Nepal.
Kathmandu, yeah.
So it was actually the first time I went there. And it was the first time I was in touch with Mingyur Rinpoche. And he was so impressive and such a true being that I followed and continued to follow his courses, and that's how we met with Tagore. Actually.
Yeah, pretty much. And by the time you used to read some Buddhist philosophy or some Buddhist stuff, or that was just about the technique?
At the beginning, it was only about the technique. If you had told me directly about all the Buddhism aspect, I would have been a bit maybe pushed away, because I didn't want to get into what I thought was a religion in a way. I had my own religion. I was brought up in a Catholic setting. So I came to Buddhism after I saw the benefits of mindfulness and meditation. And now, because I'm training as an instructor, I'm really interested also in the Buddhist aspect, which for me is more a way of living than a religion. Yeah, it's more a way of meditating and
I totally agree with you. So, talking about philosophy, and I introduced mindfulness in our conversation here right now. I'm very interested to know how you are now thinking in the definitions in your life about what is mindfulness in your opinion. We heard some technical definitions, we heard some definitions on the box, and I would like to know personally, what do you think that mindfulness is?
For me, it's really the ability or the capacity to be present in this moment now with all the emotions that maybe I have because I'm talking on this feed and I'm not used to it, so I can feel some, pressure to speak.
Yeah.
But I can also feel my body and the fact that I'm grounded and not being caught by all the thinking going on or the big emotions going on. Noticing them, but not getting into the, this habit we have to make thoughts bigger than they are and more real than they are. So to come back to the present moment. And I like the word mindfulness, sati in Pali, is to remember. And it's this endless remembering that we are here now and we can always come back to the body and to the breath. And we forget it, we go in automatic pilot and we do our things and we, conceptualize and we panic for things that don't exist or get stressed from things that happened already and we don't need to overanalyze and analyze again. So for me, that would be what mindfulness is. And of course, it's a technique or it's a capacity we need to train. And we need always to bring patience and curiosity and intention. Yeah. And sometimes we get angry at ourselves, or probably we always do. And suddenly you do something and you're completely mindless, and you're like, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, but I'm not. But take this with more a sense of humor and some distance than being caught up in all this who we are and our ego and all this. So.
Perfect. And do you think that we are able to train this capability of paying attention from time to time and be our own experience on the present moment? Do you think that we can train formally this ability?
Sorry,
train mindfulness, train the capacity to be aware.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. And it's sometimes difficult to notice the training we've had. But if I compare myself nowadays and 4 years ago, before I realize I'm able to be more mindful. I forget it, I come back to it, but it's a training, and patience is needed in the sense that first we need to train formally. I think we need to. People who want to get mindful need to have a meditation practice, a formal one. So sit or do a body scan on a daily basis, or at least a couple of days a week. And the formal practice helps in the informal practice. So this ability to remember to be mindful, even in these moments when we interact with people, when we speak, and when we live. And that's what's beautiful about mindfulness. It's not about getting this ability to have amazing meditation experiences where everything is blissful and nirvana. It's more to train a capacity we can use on a daily basis, and it takes time.
And it takes a lot of time, and it's not an easy job, as you may think. It requires discipline, requires intentions, just we said before. And now that you are current instructor, you are training nowadays, and you are training people nowadays in mindfulness. Do you think that you are able to deal with your own emotions better than before?
Yeah, definitely. Some people will doubt it, but I can see the difference, definitely. I think the emotions will always come up. You cannot control.
It's part of our life, right?
And the anger comes, and the anxiety will come. But the key is to see it and to try not to react to it with actions or with behaviors. And I think it's been better. So I can see my fear arose.
Yeah.
But I don't need to get caught in the fear and be like, oh my God, something bad will happen, and if this happens, then this will happen, and so on. So I can see it and take some distance from it instead of reacting to it. I will get angry with people and with friends, but instead of saying something I will regret, or instead of acting physically, I will just be with it and let it arise and disappears. And sometimes I will fail to do it, and then you need to bring kindness to yourself. I think that's the kindness to yourself is an important aspect of mindfulness as well, and the patience to yourself.
One of the key points may be the ability to recognize this kind of emotions, this kind of destructive emotions.
Yeah, and the same for the feelings in the body, the same for the feelings of the emotions, to just be aware of it, of them. And I think 4 years ago I was not aware of.
Yes.
I was disconnected from my body.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I was disconnected from my emotion, or I thought my emotion were bigger than me. So if I were angry, I was the anger. But we are not our anger. We are not our fear. It's just something happening to us in a way. So we can take a step. And I think teacher would say it's dangerous to identify with the emotion. Oh, I'm an angry person. No, nobody's an angry person. You can get angry, but you can always change. And that's the discovery too. That at every breath, you can decide to be somebody else, or you can decide to be a better, or not a better, but a kinder person to yourselves and to the others.
Very, very good. You're having a class with this guy here. He's so wise. My next question is about. We should say here that mind wandering state. It's a state of mind that can lead you to some level of unhappiness, if I may say. And for the other side, be aware and be present can leave you to a better state of mind, and to recognize your own thoughts and feelings, and not avoid them, but just recognize. And once you are in the present moment, you are able to get some in a better mood, or you can face the problems in a better state of mind. And can you give a comment on that, please?
Yeah, I think also the mood will arise. You will wake up in a difficult mood, or you will, wake up with all your thoughts taking over you, and what I need to do today, and everything, and the ability to come back to your present experience in your body right now, and realize that in this moment, even if our thoughts are crazy and we might wonder, are we doing a good video and what did not? I mean, in this moment we are okay. I mean, our body is okay, our mind is okay, and it's the ability to come to that. The mood is a bit trickier for me, because sometimes you wake up with a difficult mood, or on the left foot, as we say, and you don't notice it. You just go on in your task, and you get a bit angrier and angrier and angrier, and you never took the attention to your mood, and how is my mood now, and can I be with it, or do I need to change it, and just looking at the mood then explains why you behave like this, or why you feel this anxiety. And I think meditation is also taking the time to look at yourself, and to look at what's your sensations, what your emotions, how is your body, and how is your mind, and how are your mood. And once you decipher this and you just take note, you don't need to change, you take note of this, and it helps you be with how you are right now. So it helps you, again, be in the moment, but it's difficult practice. It's not something, I mean, we need to do it over and over again, but it dissociates us from all these things we think are us. Yeah.
And of course, you are an instructor, but we are instructors. Do you think that we have to train ourselves in this ability? Because people are intended to think that okay, I just go for my meditation class on yoga teaching. I go once to the park in order to meditate. I think that will be enough. But it takes time, takes some effort, and takes some discipline as well in order to get this different state of mind and quality of emotions. I used to say that mindfulness is a quality of your mind. So, what tips can you give us? Can you give to my audience in order to persuade them to train, to looking for a mindfulness or meditation program or whatever? What do you recommend for them?
So first, I like what you said about also the teacher needs to practice.
Definitely.
Sometimes we forget, but if we want to pretend to teach mindfulness, as I'm trying to do, but sometimes I'm telling myself I should even practice more, because if we want to explain to people the benefits and how it works, it's a daily practice and trying to. I like the embodiment of the mindfulness, like
Perfect,
you behave like you teach. Even the behavior is more important.
yes.
So that's a good point. And then about the tips, I mean, it's probably if people are looking at this program, is they are interested already in mindfulness, and I would just say try it. Try an introduction. Try a center, or try a program even online or with real people in Sao Paulo or in Brazil. There are so many opportunities to try and see what it does and give the chance to it, and see how you feel after. Don't expect that in one. Sometimes now we talk about mindfulness, we think in one shot it's the cure for everything and we'll be happy forever. That's not the case. We'll notice we're not happy, but we'll be with it and we'll accept it sometimes. So to try it and to see if it works for you. I think the Buddha was always saying, he was not preaching like you have to do it, you'll be happy, but he was saying try it. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, maybe it's not the time, and do something else.
It's not one size fits all technique, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you have to figure out that if it works for you, as it did for you before in the past, and the law of impermanence. We are trying to getting better from time to time, and always. And the present is always changing. Our mind is always changing. Our behavior is always changing. So we have to kind of pursue this ability to understand ourselves in order uh, to say and to teach to the whole world, to the people that are looking for us, how to get a better person or how to deal with our problems in the life. So just tell me a little bit more about how can you think that the importance of the breathing, once you are in contact with your own breathing, it's kind of a key or kind of bridge to figure out and to realize your emotions, your thoughts. Just tell me a little bit about how to breathe.
It's a good
Very
question.
good question.
Yeah. And sometimes we forget to breathe. We just so in the moment or so tense by the action that we don't notice the breathing, or we have a very shallow breathing. And I think the breath is used in meditation because it's something that is always here with us. Sometimes we don't notice it, sometimes it's very subtle, but we're always breathing. So it's a good anchor for our practice, because I think the first step of the practice is to focus on an object. And if the object is clear and always there, it's easier to focus. So focusing on your in-breath and on your out-breath and just keeping the practice will help you connect to something that is stable, and then to your entire body. Then you can expand. Once you have developed some concentration on your breath, you can also expand on your entire body and the sensations going, appearing and disappearing in your body. And I would say maybe the thoughts part and the emotion part is the next step. But when you focus on your breath, I mean, you know how it works. You will notice after 1 second that your mind is distracted by a thought, and you need to bring it back with kindness to the breath. And then you think you will stay on your breath for 1, 2, but again, you're distracted and you come back. So it's the muscle of mindfulness. It's an exercise. It's like going to the gym and doing this exercise on bringing you back to the object you chose, and the breath in this case.
Yes, perfect example, yeah.
And you need to be patient again. The patience is really there. And when you ask about the tips for meditation, I think what's really key is we don't meditate to achieve something, because in our mindset in today, and it's about achieving something. I need to be this, I need to do this, and then I will be happy. Meditation is about doing the exercise and failing and starting again and failing and starting again and being distracted and coming back to the breath. And it's actually this exercise that is key. And the kindness we bring to this exercise without judging ourselves or saying, I'm a bad meditator, I'm a bad this and that, I will never succeed. Just doing it. And you will fail, but you will come back to it. And the more you do it, the better it will get. But sometimes even probably even after 25 years of experience, your mind is not fully focused.
Yes.
That's normal.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. I'm just loving this conversation.
Me too. It's nice.
The last question is about compassion. Like 15 days ago, I gave my webinar on wisdom and compassion. And we're talking a lot about compassion and self-compassion as well. So, in order to finish this conversation in a very high level, if I may say, I'd like to know some words from you related to how to recognize your own compassion, or how to recognize compassion in other people, and how can this be a very important core in our practice. Without compassion, we are nothing. Just give us a comment on that, please.
It's a tough question to answer, but a good question. For me, compassion has been maybe especially self-compassion has been maybe the trickiest or more difficult part of meditation. You have this metta, we talked about it, the metta meditation, where you start by wishing yourself well and then wishing others well, and it's a formal practice. But I still, for me, the mindfulness meditation the breath, for example, seems easier than the compassion one.
Yeah.
So I try to do it more and more, but I feel personally it's difficult sometimes to feel self-compassion, because sometimes we can be, or I could be hard on myself, like you need to be better, you need to do this, you need to succeed. And now I'm learning more and more to be compassionate towards myself, because if we don't start by being kind to ourselves, it's difficult to be kind to other people. And if we don't improve ourselves, we cannot expect to help other people as well. So compassion is about, I think what the meditation and the mindfulness does is also it make us realize that we are connected. And we are not the only one having stress. We are not the only one having suffering. I mean, all human beings are stressed or suffer. Life can be difficult. So realizing that we are not alone make us realize that we are connected. And this connectedness brings compassion for our fellow human beings and for people around us. So it's good to be trained formally, but I think it's something that is developing also slowly if you continue the mindfulness practice. And I think all this is a lifetime work. I mean, it's not happening from one day to the other. We need to continue to be compassionate.
Definitely not. Yeah.
And it's needed nowadays, especially more. Then we need to realize we are all human beings and to try and be compassionate towards others instead of judging or criticizing or making categories, good, people, bad people. We're all in the same situation. We all try to be happy, and sometimes we don't know how to be happy. So we do wrong things that make us more unhappy. But basically, we are all human beings trying to be happy, and we're connected. So it's good to keep in mind.
Perfect. We are labeling all the time. We are judging all the time, right?
Judging ourselves, judging others. Yeah, and it's coming there, but it's good to be aware of the judging, so it's less strong, and we don't get caught in our judgment. And the judgment, we like making categories, as I said, good people, bad people, but this is just categories of the mind. We are all people.
We are all people, yeah,
Yeah.
right. I do agree with you, totally agree with you. So, I'd like to thank my friend here, Guillaume from Switzerland. He's a MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction instructor, and I'm very glad with this opportunity. And I would like you to say to our Brazilian friends your last words in order to just finish our thoughts about mindfulness. Just say something for our audience, please.
Well, thank you for listening, and I've been spending 6 months now in Brazil, and it was really an amazing experience, welcoming people, and just as I said, mindfulness doesn't cure everything. It's not about fixing anything. It's just about trying it and see the benefits. And I hope it will help you too. And thank you for this talk, Marcelo.
Thank you so much. Wise talk, nice words. Thank you, people, for being here with us.